Oh my God.
Oh crap, he dropped it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Okayest Hunter podcast, coming at you from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, out of the Okayest Hunter podcast studio. Can someone else say Okayest Hunter podcast for me?
The Okayest Hunter podcast.
Okay.
It just feels like a lot to get out of your mouth.
You do it
The
so well.
Okayest Hunter podcast.
You got it.
Okay, well maybe I just...
You gotta
all
hit
over
the
it.
consonants a little harder for that Midwestern
Yeah.
twang.
What's it when you say a word too many times, it loses its...
You're
You
losing
know
me
what I'm talking
already.
too many times and it loses its meaning?
That's
Probably.
exactly how you're searching.
It means something. Semantic satiation.
What?
Satiation.
Semantic satiation. How do you say that word? Now that I've done it with that word.
Sanitary satiation.
It's a phenomenon.
Sanitary,
It says
yes.
it's a phenomenon whereby
Great start, guys.
the
Hold
on, I'll tell you. Oh my God, words are hard. The uninterrupted
Jesus.
repetition of a word eventually leads to a sense that the
Are you
word has
trying to
lost
read a
its
map
meaning.
over there?
So it means nothing.
All of my words have lost their meaning. I'm semantically satiated today.
I
You look
actually-
as confused right now as you do when you're reading a map.
I actually told Greg that about a year ago.
I did.
Everything Greg says just doesn't land at all
It's
anymore.
fine. It's fine.
I have to make
I'm
a
used to talking to myself. It's okay.
Yeah, we all do it. Our wives go, "Are you talking to yourself?" Yeah. Who else am I talking to? Not you.
All the
Like,
time. I wouldn't say that to you.
are you my wife?
Come on.
Where are we?
Wow.
Whoa.
That took a hard turn.
You'd think so. Anyway, I gotta call out our sponsors. We are I know it's the Okayest Hunter podcast studio, but Spartan Forge is our presenting sponsor, so they get to stamp the studio as their own.
They
to
are
some
up
degree.
until this episode.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked to Bill this week a couple of times, and I think he's going to be driving through to North Dakota here pretty soon. And I don't know what day he's going to be making it here, but he'll be here at some point in the next week or two, so he can give me the stamp of approval on this. I don't want to say shithole because it's actually
Or
turned
he's
out
going
pretty
to
good.
hand us the papers. It's fine. The pink slips.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I do have to make a correction, and I don't want to throw him under the bus because I believe in extreme ownership and accountability. So I'll just take blame. It's my fault, but he'll do the same thing and say it's his fault. So we both take blame, but it's 20% off, not 25% off. And maybe it was 25 at one point. I don't know. I don't feel like searching through the text history, but if you want to save 20% off of Spartan Forge, use code OHP. But how it works is you have to go to SpartanForge.ai, sign up there first, and then when you download the app and go into iTunes or Google Play, then you'll be able to get that 20% off. I almost did it again.
Oh.
20.
Now I know it's his fault because screw the accountability. I have no way I've been saying that long wrong. I swear. It's Bill's fault. All right.
Sometimes you say something enough, it just loses its.
It just
validity.
loses its,
I
yeah.
like that. That's
Somewhere
better. Yeah, I
around.
just heard that somewhere.
It's not 25% off at all. Just for the camera, me too, so I'm talking, and I'll stop talking soon. Vector Custom Shop. I just got my arrows in this last week, 12 of them.
Did you shoot them yet?
Nope. You know what I'm going to do? This is going to be fun. I'm going to save it for the shoot, and we're going to make a big joke out of
You
it.
like to live dangerously.
We'll just see how it goes. That way I have a whole bunch of people that can find my arrows. Is kind of how I think about it.
Enlist the army to help you find your arrows.
Yes.
That's right.
But their discount is 10% OHP, 10% off of their arrows. They're built to your specs. They'll arrive at your door, ready to go. We'll see how true that is.
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith in it. But they have the ZMR, so I've not shot the ZMRs yet. Can I call them Zimmers?
You can.
Zimmer. That's how they're going to sound. And then
Thwack, bonk. Quack.
Wow.
bang, bang. That's what I'm drinking tonight.
You
So
need
maybe I
another one.
shouldn't be bringing my kids to this event.
If they are,
Wear
there's
your
a
helmets,
line.
kids.
They need to stand behind it, and they need to wear their body armor.
Why was that red? Am I too close? Oh, I've never seen
Yeah,
that before.
it's angry.
Maybe I should turn that down. Well, yeah, it's pretty loud. Let me just, I've never seen that. Let's go down to 20. Okay. So, and then we had a couple more.
It's way past 11, isn't it?
Your saddle arrived today.
Ooh.
It's
is that
upstairs on the
box
kitchen
upstairs?
table. Yeah, it's the whole kit and caboodle.
Sweet.
It's a gear strap, the whole nine. And then the one that we're doing for our giveaway for their Foam Fest arrived this week also. So for Latitude Outdoors, I'm going to bring mine to set up. If you want to bring yours to play around, there's lots of trees there, as you've seen. So we can show that off a little bit. Maybe you want to bring a platform. I'll bring my platform.
Yeah, I'll bring all my gear.
Yeah. So 20% off on accessories right now. Use code OHP at Latitude Outdoors. I don't know. Alex is about as busy as I am or worse. So as busy as that guy is, he always gets back to me. So if anyone has any questions or something, if you want to use us as a conduit, a bunch of people have been using us to talk to other brands as of late. As someone I was helping figure out Spartan Forge last week, and someone asked a question about Vector, and I'm always like, talk to Greg, not me.
I get a lot of questions derived out of Vector stuff. So
yeah. So, and then Go Wild, I got to hang out with those guys at an event last week, and we'll eventually introduce our guest that's in studio. I met Braden.
Having a great time listening to us be a couple of jackasses, that's for sure.
We gotta get not just a couple.
1, 2, 3.
But it's fun. I got to hang out with Jacob Knight and Braden Ware over there. That was a weird rhyme. And we work closely with those guys. I'm on the platform quite a bit.
It's like Huff and Dobeck.
Del Dobeck? What are you doing to Del Dobeck? You know, it's really good for elbow pain. You lick my butthole.
Well, I ain't doing that.
I was waiting for the drink out. That was happening.
You almost wore that, dude. Good thing my elbow don't hurt.
Now we'd like to introduce our guest.
On that note, who are we talking to today?
Okay, Jessica Ann is here with the Wild Race. And I'll switch the camera stuff here. So we met in March at the open season sportsman's show at the Kalahari Expo. It was our first time doing an exhibit.
It was. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
We were almost professional.
Oh,
Greg built the booth, and we bought some
awesome
frames, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, we had fun.
Yeah, we did.
I think we did okay. Right? Pun intended.
We did okay.
And so whatever, we did the thing there. We ran into you. You had like a whole crew of camera people, and it's like, what is going on here? This is someone important.
Here.
It was like, wow. And
it's
then
a movie star.
I was like, he's like, oh, I know your dad, Chuck. And I was like, well, that's an interesting. Why is a celebrity know my dad? Like, what's going on? Dad? Yeah.
Dad?
But my dad works for a company where he drives all day and does like, I don't even know what to call them. I don't want to say their name on there because maybe dad like, don't tell people where I work. But
that's all good.
Nonetheless, he's like, one of the nicest humans in the world, I think. Of course, I'm going to say that he's my dad. But I think he watches your show.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked to my dad. He's like, you got to watch his show. And then turns out I was like, oh, how do I watch it? So you gave me your credentials so I could literally see it because I'm like apparently pretty cheap. But it's on Pursuit Channel, which is on like, I guess, let's have you take it here. Take the words out of my mouth. For the love of God, I'm having like a night.
Put down the bangs.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Pull the microphone away.
They're not a sponsor, but it'd be bad if they were. I'd like, welcome to Okayest Hunter podcast. I'd be crazy all the time. All right, go ahead.
So our show, The Wild Race, is season 1 is airing right now on the Pursuit Channel. So we have 3 different air times. Thursdays at noon Central Time, Fridays at 5:30 in the morning Central Time, and then Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Time. So 3 different air times every week. We're doing, the first season is 13 weeks. So we have 13 original episodes that will be aired. Once these 13 are aired, we will then have them not only available on the Pursuit Up app, because that is their policy. Unfortunately, a lot of people have asked if they can watch it on the app, which is free, but we can't. Unfortunately, the network does not allow them to go on the app until after it airs 90 days through their contracts with the network.
Gotcha.
So the only other option, if you don't have cable or satellite, to watch the show on the Pursuit Channel is to watch it on Sling TV. So most people, like myself, do not have cable or satellite, so I actually had to download Sling TV.
That's what I did. Yeah.
To get it, and then that's why I shared my credentials, because some people are like, well, how can I watch it? And so our goal is to like increase accessibility, right, for this year, especially seeing that we're getting great audiences in a different kind of demographic watching the cable and satellite, but we want to get even more out there, right? And even more accessible. So then we'll also plan on putting our stuff on YouTube as well once this season is done. So
that's exciting. So tell us about who are you and like why did you do this? Like where did this come from? Yes, like what Greg said.
So and we were just having this conversation. It's a very kind of interesting background to the whole thing, but the Wild Race itself kind of started with this dream that I myself full-time work as a nurse. So my trade, my day job, you can call it / nice job, is working as a nurse. But I came
Just one or two?
I have 2 jobs as a nurse.
Okay.
I work 2 full-time jobs as a nurse on top of the show and everything else.
Wow.
So it's
how did you clear your schedule to be here?
I didn't.
They were here early. They were on time.
Yeah.
The ring doorbell broke and my dog's barking. I'm like, that's probably Greg. And I didn't even I was like, I'm an idiot.
No, it is very hard, but just like most of us in this, in this industry, but just anyone pursuing anything entrepreneurship wise, right? Like you have to be able to really grind and put in that work. So sometimes that requires us to work multiple jobs to be able to afford our dreams. So, but no, this actually started, are you familiar with SCI, Safari Club International?
Yeah.
So my grandpa actually started the chapter here in Wisconsin many years ago. First chapter president. So I started with those very foundations and those values that my grandpa instilled in me very long ago. And so my dream was to always take over his nonprofit, which was called the One Shot Hunt Club, that specifically actually targeted the communities in South Africa. So there, the mission for his organization at the time was to provide hope and a future for African children. So wherever he went into this community in South Africa, because he fell in love with African hunting, was to actually give back. And so he saw a need. And so he used not only the resources he had, but the people that he met to be able to give back to that community. So what people don't know is South Africa hunting it's such a huge part of their economy. Like if it wasn't for hunting, they would really struggle. Everything down to the harvested meat, every piece of the meat, because of course you can't take that back. It's donated actually to these communities, especially where we were at. So, it was amazing. So he's gone there. I grew up building homemade wheelchairs in my basement at the age of 10. I mean, plastic chairs, bicycle wheels, and a foam pad. Anything to get the people that were immobile in those villages up and about.
Wow, that's really cool.
They did everything from building schools and assisting with donating laptops and, providing not only food, but supplies for these kids and for these families in that area. So it was really amazing to kind of grow up.
Was first president of Safari Club International for the Wisconsin chapter.
Yep, and he started it.
He started it. So a buddy of mine, his dad was the president a couple of years back. Harry Maddox and Shane is my friend. And just thinking about, so then he goes overseas, does a hunt, and falls in love with the community is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Like, that's pretty cool.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I mean, I went over, no one's gone over there. So I was planning to take over that organization. And that was my dream. My grandpa was like, this is your high school graduation present to go over there. Unfortunately, he passed away my 3rd year of high school year. So I never got to go, and no one from my family went back until this last May. So Jace actually came with us, and we went there for 2 weeks with my mom and my dad.
Wow.
2 years of planning because of COVID, everything got canceled.
Yeah.
So, and through all of that, right. So we had this plan in 2020, COVID happened. My mom got diagnosed with cancer, and it was just, we're like, are we ever going to make it?
Wow.
So we finally went to the same place that my grandpa became best friends with over there in the same communities that he helped with, this very same community. And we got to do the same thing he did, work with the same schools. We actually, that school that he helped build was no longer actually in session. It is really sad, but basically they ended up having a school right next to it. So it was really cool to see, like, this is what he did. Now this is what I'm doing right next door. Right. But we got to do the same thing through all of our sponsors. We were able to, I think, Vortex themselves donated like $2,500 worth of shirts for the kids. And then we were able to go in schools and get them school supplies and toys, and then go and take money that was donated and put that back in their economy by purchasing from them their blankets, additional food, filling their pantries, filling and going over to these villages and handing out blankets. And what I was not aware of is that what's super interesting is at the first of the month, if you don't have the money to pay for your electric or your heat, you don't get it the whole month. So a lot of these families, and believe it or not, it gets very cold there. We were actually in a blizzard on the last day. Oh, yes. It is freezing there in winter. So opposite from us. So when we were there in May, it's their winter. And so the guy that is my grandpa's dear friend, Francois, he would actually go and cut up wood on his own land and bring it so that they would have heat in their house. And then we went around and donated our blankets that we were able to get for them, and then also give them food. So that little community, there was 52 families that they helped in that little tiny community, which was not very big in itself. So it was really amazing to kind of continue with that legacy that he started many years ago. And so based on that, and those values and beliefs that he instilled in me so young, like everything from Wisconsin Northwoods, hunting and whitetail hunting, growing up doing that ever since I was like 6. I had this huge love for South Africa. And like you said, fell in love with that community. I mean, those kids, I don't think there's a single episode where I'm not crying. I mean, just the families you see, the kids, like just knowing like how much of a difference that you're making. And so that's where I
Gives you perspective to be back here too.
Oh my goodness.
It makes you feel like a little sick probably.
Oh yeah. It's very eye-opening.
Not that that's inherently bad, because you don't know how others have it if you've never seen it. Mm-hmm. But that perspective that you get, it kind of lifts your awareness of things a little bit.
It does. It does. And I feel like it really put that fire underneath me to be like, this is more that feeling I got of giving back and seeing what I can do with the meat that I harvested. Beautiful, beautiful animals. But I was able to use that in a way to also give back. I'm like, this is more of what I want to do, right? It's almost like that amazing feeling that you can't just recreate over and over again unless you continue to do that. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we started the Wild Race, right? And so it's a dream of mine to not only use those values, but to create my own legacy along the way. So,
and why the name? Can you unpack that?
Yeah. So the Wild Race, it's the race to change the future. So my goal is to be able to, I see the kids as the future. Like our youth are our future. We want to be able to give those kids an opportunity to close a lot of the gaps and a lot of missing pieces that these kids aren't given. We had a great conversation even earlier today about good hunting ethics, good work ethics, and then bad hunting ethics, right? So if we can get with the youth and be able to teach them early on or nip those bad habits out and be able to identify resources or opportunities of improvement, teach them to be good sportsmen, to have those good ethics so that the farmer that you just asked to borrow, lease their land or go hunting on their land, they welcome you the next year instead of, nope, this person ruined it for us, right? Because they left behind trash. They didn't respect my land. They didn't respect my property. Absolutely. So if I can do anything, it's to give back and to make that difference and to be able to teach and educate these kids. So we travel all over. We actually go all over the, now world, but the nation. And we hunt, we fish, but we focus on that very community. So we focus on bringing small businesses in, bringing our sponsors in, and allowing us to give an opportunity to the kids in areas of need, whether it's a nonprofit or any deserving child that a community rallies around is like, hey, this is somebody that could really benefit from something like this, that we can rally around and give an amazing opportunity to. So it's kind of a really interesting thing. And so it kind of evolved into what we're doing now, which is we're doing a lot this year for season 2 that we're filming with our youth contest. And I think you may have seen a little bit of that. So we had our waterfowl contest. We spent a couple days driving all over, surprising these kids that the parents got to nominate. We get to spoil them. But with every hunt that we're doing with them, there's a safety education day that goes with it. So we invite our sponsors. Like on September 11th, we're at Wern Valley in Waukesha here.
Yeah, I used to work there when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, I took care of birds there, and I used to, back before it was all automated buttons, I was one of the kids pulling the thing, driving the farm truck,
there you
go. It's a pretty great summer job.
They are amazing. They actually welcomed us with open arms. So we are going there on Sunday, September 11th with all 6 kids for the waterfowl hunt and their families. Okay. And we are making them lunch, and we're having the guide that's going to be out taking us guide hunting that weekend. Bring out the A-frame blinds, bring out the layout blinds, teach these kids how not only to be comfortable in these different types of blinds, but how to use a firearm in these blinds. We have a dog handling seminar. So we're going to have Alex Britton from SOK Kennels come and work the dogs and show the kids how to safely hunt with dogs and waterfowl, because they're very important resource and tool when we are doing things like upland bird hunting or waterfowl hunting.
Muzzle control and trigger safety are really important in those situations.
Absolutely. And the last thing you want is to go out in, youth hunt and be like, hey, meet me here at this parking lot at 5 a.m. and get into a blind, dark, and you don't know what's going on. You have dogs. You don't know, have these kids ever hunted with dogs? So we want to give them all those tools and those, that education piece so that they feel comfortable and successful in that day of the hunt. And then we have an instructor, Wisconsin certified instructor, come and do firearm safety. Well, the kids doing some firearm practice. I think we have a duck call and goose call seminar from some of the call companies donating calls. So
That's awesome.
it's like a whole thing.
It's
And
like Christmas.
I'll be there.
it is.
I can probably learn a thing or two.
That's what I said. I mean, I'm newer to waterfowl hunting, and I'm like,
It's a
I
blast.
I am not a good caller at all. And so I'm like, I'll definitely be taking a few tips myself. But
Honestly, less calling is the best if you got good decoys and you know how to set your decoys in to work with the wind and your location. Scouting is always key, but you don't honestly need to call like a lot of these people are calling.
Yeah.
It's just been my experience, but I haven't gone in a few years. So just use your decoys. It's like turkey hunting. I mean, sometimes you're better off just shutting up. And with the amount of, if you're on public water, there's so many other people highballing at ducks, and the ducks know what they're getting blown at, and they all know another hen mallard doesn't sound like that. So just let your decoys do the work.
Yeah, so we are super excited for that.
How do you going to like different sponsors, like you mentioned, Vortex, giving 2,500 shirts? These companies are probably just hammered with requests like this. So how do you make inroads with some of these folks to like, you're doing such a good thing,
right?
But how do you even get their attention to get that time to tell them that you're doing a good thing? And how do you, just because you're doing something good doesn't mean they have to care or should care. That's tricky. So like when you say you're working 2 full-time jobs as a nurse is no easy job. You're taking care of people. Sounds like you've been doing your whole life. And then you're doing this other thing with a TV crew, which can't be easy at all to navigate. And then on top of that, you're getting sponsors for that and to do these other things. Like it's just, and then the event you just described, we're doing an event this week and I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, the guy. People ask me, are you all set? Derek's like, hey, you all set, Eric? I'm like, no, yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. Like, I still don't actually know how well we're going to do all that.
We'll be all right.
But then say like we're gonna do this and that and this and that and this and that. That's just a lot of stuff.
It is.
I guess the question I'm getting at here is like, I know people can grind it out, but at some point you can burn out.
Oh yeah.
So then I think maybe because you're doing something so fulfilling, it's enough to keep the fuel tank full, but it still has its challenges. Like, how are you doing all of this stuff?
It's not easy. I have days where, and I'm a girl, and so I take things that sometimes some of the feedback I get, I take it to heart, and you have plenty of people out there. This industry is hard. It is incredibly hard, and it's very cutthroat. It is very small. So you have lots of people who are out there that really want to help you succeed, right? And you grow your little support circle. And I hold on to that for dear life. I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for my support circle, because without that, I would just be so muffled by all the other noise that's happening. But truthfully, to me, like, this is my dream. Like my dad always said, you can have anything in the world you want as long as you want it bad enough. So I know that this is what I want. I know that I want to be able to somehow create this life of working and being a nurse and my passion of giving back and being a nurse in the inside, but also into the outdoor industry. So I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to just pave my way. And so I've caught the attention, and I started noticing with my sponsors, even though I might just be another person they sponsor, for me to have those direct connections with my reps and to be able to have those relationships where they are watching my personal successes outside of what I'm just doing with the show or the hunting industry. They're seeing everything else professionally and personally that I've overcome and that I'm doing. And I think that, just like you said, when you reach out to these companies like Sika, for example, they're amazing. However, they're incredible. Imagine the donation requests they get, right? And so I was even though they're one of my sponsors, I was terrified to be like, okay, I wonder if they're going to do anything to be able to help us with this. And so I didn't even reach out to them originally with the waterfall hunt, but I actually reached out to them because subsequently, believe it or not, what I just described to you, we're doing it 4 times already, instead of almost 5 or 6 in the works. So we have the Wisconsin whitetail hunt. that we just the youth whitetail hunt contest, and we did that. We closed that. We chose 2 winners, a boy and a girl, and then we're running our Idaho pheasant hunt. And we have a Michigan waterfowl youth hunt as well.
I can't even buy myself. On
So it is like my goal is to get all 50 states. Like as crazy as it is to be able to go into all 50 states and be able to do the same thing that we're doing. Provide those resources, give kids a mentor and people to look up to and businesses to support them. But honestly, like to go to Sitka and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Are you interested? I was even blown away when they're like, yep, we're going to fully clothe these 2 kids that win your whitetail contest. And I was like, what? What? You're going to do what? They donated an entire whitetail system to each of these kids at lunch.
Awesome.
And so they, on top of that, they donated for the Ward Burton Foundation.
I was going to say, I saw that at the event, at the Half Rack event last weekend.
And so
I was like, oh, cool. I was like, that's for a kid. Which is great, but it's not gonna fit me, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't put my raffle ticket in there. My kid's not old enough to be outfitted by Sitka.
Right, and that's the thing too, is like most parents are like, why would I go and spend all this money when they're going to grow out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but when I reached out to them subsequently the day or 2 later and say, hey, we also have this other event with Half Rack for the Ward Burton Foundation, and they were like, yep, we'll donate a system to raffle off. I'm like, holy cow. So they've been, lately in the last few months, I've seen them pay attention to my social media pages a lot more, message me, comment, private message, and say something back after I comment or post something and tag them in it.
What people don't realize is these large companies, even like a Sitka, they have small marketing teams.
They do.
It might be 2 people or 3.
Yeah.
Maybe for them it's 4 or 5, but it's never what people think.
Right.
And because they're such a small team but such a big company, there's a really weird shift in perception about what people think about some of these organizations. So usually it's someone that's just buried because they're one person and their interns not back from college, or you know what I mean? Like they're dealing with stuff that like, so if they're not getting back, it's not like you need to take offense to it or anything. It's just there's a lot going on. Not to say that that's something you would do.
Right.
It's just something I've learned over the years. Like they don't have to care about my stuff. You know, I don't need to then be offended that this guy didn't get back to me. This gal didn't get back to me. It's interesting. But if you have alignment with mission, then you can do something to like move the needle forward. Like that's really cool because those companies are so big. They're not going to do the stuff you're doing, even if they want to have a hand in it.
Right.
So it actually helps them quite a bit more than maybe you even think.
Yep.
Because they're not going to go to Africa, you know, like, you know what I mean? But they're having an impact.
But I think you have a couple people, and maybe small, like you said, marketing department that pay attention. And I think it's very easy to see very quickly that what you stand for is education, and that education is in everything you do. Sure, like doing a youth event and educating kids on how to duck hunt and how to use blind, like that's pretty obvious. But what you described earlier about your African hunt and how you interact with, you know, the local tribes and the people who live there, like a lot of people, I feel like that's the number one thing that gets hated on social media, right? You see a picture of somebody with an African game animal and it's like, oh my God, those rich snobs went there, shot this animal for the trophy room. Yeah. It's so easy to hate that.
It is.
When you don't know. But a lot of them don't see how that money impacts those tribes and how the meat impacts the people who live there.
Yeah.
And just bringing that up and talking about it, I mean, hopefully somebody listening is just like, oh, I didn't know that was part of the game with African hunting. And it's huge. Like when you know.
Most people have no idea.
If you don't know, like that education aspect, people notice that.
Yep.
And people want to get behind that because, like you said, youth is our future, man. We have to educate.
Well,
absolutely.
And the thing about the youth, right, if we're talking about that, is like there's a perpetual youth. You know, like the youth we're talking to today, you know, in 10 years aren't going to be youth anymore. Yeah. So like some of the things you're instilling is like programmatic makes sense to have like things that are instilled that can last over time. So as people go into that age, they can kind of get into that stream of things that you're talking about, where there are the educational programs to get people like, you know, how to handle firearms, to know how to treat land and be a good steward, and how to like leave things cleaner than you found them and things of that nature. Even the stuff we're doing with like social media, a lot of kids are on social media. Yeah. And they're on YouTube Reels, and they're on TikTok and Instagram, and these places that, you know, we're probably on Facebook because we're old, you know, and kids are like, oh, Facebook, that's where my dad is. And then they go to these other platforms, and like, who's existing there?
Yeah.
And what kind of message you put out, and like, how do you do that? So with the content that you have in the TV show, like,
it's different.
You have a really interesting reach and a wide net that you're casting there.
And what's amazing is the people that are watching my show, because it's not your typical hunting show. You don't turn it on and you're hunting, you're stalking, you're preparing, and then the last 3 seconds is your kill shot, and then you talk about it, right? And then it's the closing. My show is probably half hunting and half what I'm doing in the community and what I'm doing specifically with what my mission is. And so whether it's focusing on the sponsor and what they've done or what we're doing exactly, that is what I love. And I'm getting people who have never hunted, who don't hunt, who are on complete opposite ends of my spectrum, who are watching my show because it's not about like it's all education based, right? Like there's so much more to us as hunters than just we're out there, we're killing things, and we do it it's a way of life for us. It's who we are. It's our tradition, and I think that is what was instilled in me very, very, very early on. And so I want to be able to carry that on. And so if I can use my platform, if I can use my show, my social media accounts to be able to allow these messages to get out, I want to do that. Like that is ideally what I absolutely want.
I can't even imagine like the impact of just like almost subconscious of what you just mentioned. Like, so somebody's in your house or visiting, or like a friend of, so-and-so's, and you've got Pursuit Channel on, and like, instead of seeing just like a guy gripping and grinning, all of a sudden they're doing something. You're doing something with helping out, doing this, doing that. And someone's like, oh, what are you watching? Oh, the hunting show. And all of a sudden it's a totally new connection, right? That just took off. That this isn't about killing. This isn't about this. This is a community of people, like-minded people who are doing something for the good of others.
Absolutely.
I think that's,
and think
those
about
little things, man.
Do you guys have children?
Yes, I do.
So
you saw the mess.
So you think about like you want how I feel almost like we're seeing a dying breed. We're seeing a bunch of people at our age or older than us that we're missing this gap. We have this gap of like there's not enough resources or not enough education and opportunities for these kids. So we want to be able to take what we know and what we are doing as good ethical people in this community, in this industry, and instill that in them, right? And so being able to show up at a kid's house and surprise them, I can't tell you that in itself just made me it feels so good to be like, guess what? You get to come hunt with us. You get to learn. You get to meet all these people. It's amazing. Like their responses are that's what it's all about. And then half of them have hunted, half of them, or have never shot a duck or goose. And they're like, well, I've hunted, I've shot a deer, but I've never done this. So seeing, and I'm sure maybe one of you guys have seen it, or taken a new buddy out that's, brand new to hunting, like watching them harvest something for the first time. That's amazing. That's something that you can't recreate.
It's very fulfilling because then
it's
like it almost came full circle because you helped them learn some things and they succeeded.
Yep. And then they will probably get somebody else involved, and they will probably then at least, be able to educate other people, and get them interested and be able to show them like, hey, this is what I got to do. This is what I'm going to do. Like, do you want to come out with me and continue? But if we show them the first time, we don't have to correct those bad habits, and we don't have to worry that they're not using the right, that they're being safe ultimately.
You mentioned that right in the beginning is like not teaching the bad habits and doing it right from the start. And that just perpetuates when they develop this desire, this love of it. And then they obviously are going to teach their kids, their friends, and they're already knowing the right way. So that's naturally what they're going to show their friends. And it's just going to continue that.
And if they see somebody out there doing something that is not safe or not right, or is being a bad sportsman in whatever way, that they're maybe able to correct that or find that as an opportunity to go in and make a better situation from that.
100%.
It's cool. I have more thoughts on all that. We talk about this all day. Yeah, I mean, some of the things have like echoed around the studio, and I mean, I can hear the walls echoing back from previous episodes. We talked to 80, whatever it is. Like I don't remember the math on it, but there's a certain number of the population that just doesn't. It's not like they're anti or for hunting. They're just not aware at all. And those are the people that like we can influence. We're not going to convince an anti to hunt, and an anti is not going to convince us to stop. Those are words again that are hard words. But it's that middle and that sphere of influence that Derek mentioned. Like if someone just happens to watch this, maybe it'll spark something different. But
absolutely.
I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and get into like, I don't know, the nitty gritty of what the hell was it like traveling to Africa? Like, how did you get your weapons on the plane? And
oh god!
did you have to gut the animal yourself? Like, what do you do with an animal that size?
How do you gut an animal that size?
Like, I mean, really, you'd be like in it, you know?
No, you have just like Ace Ventura when he crawls out of the rhino.
It's on
you
top.
Do the same thing.
Yeah.
You gotta crawl in.
There's your meme for the week.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, let me just go get the heart. Got it. No, but honestly, what were some of the smells, sights, sounds? What was it like there? Like you know, so I went to Nicaragua, and like the plant life there creates a different aroma in the air.
Sure,
it smells like you're in a different country. Yep. The food being cooked by the restaurants in town smells very different than what you're used to smelling. It's not a burger joint like Chili's wafting that into the air, or like Crafty Cow or Culver's or McDonald's. It's like different.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about the tangible experience that you've had, and what else is on the horizon too. Like, where else are you going to go? Now that you have this ticket, so to speak.
So South Africa. So we went from Milwaukee to Atlanta, then flew Atlanta to Johannesburg, South Africa, and that was
we're going to have to be really specific with geography here, because like I can't even navigate the U.S. So
he's going to get confused again if he keeps.
But we have an audience. It's not just me. Maybe I don't know where Johannesburg is.
So
that sounds like a person to me. Hey, what's up, Johannesburg?
He's
like holding the sign. That's me.
Haven't you ever seen Rescuers Down Under?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah.
There you go.
Is that Johannes? I don't remember.
I think so. Johannesburg was the leading actor.
And just like that, the train has been derailed.
That's hilarious.
Well, your dad's or your grandpa's friend's name. What was his name? It was Francois. That's a cool name.
So
that sounds awesome.
Funny, we had, when you say Johannesburg, so a lot of men over there, their name is Johan. So it's so funny when I found this out. Francois, we were like, yeah, Johan. And he's like, well, there's a lot of Johans. It's like the name John. So he shows me his phone. He's like, I have all these Johans. He's just scrolling. And I was like, oh, well, the Johan that was at here. And he's like, oh, so-and-so. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so.
I got to call them all like a high school basketball team by their last name instead of their first.
Back when I was young, on my phone was like girls' names, but on like the bar.
Sure.
Yeah. Not cool, but whatever. My wife's like, where'd you meet that one? I'm like, let's go find out. Well, looks like it was Buckhead's. Classic.
But no, South Africa traveling, it was like a 16-hour flight there. Gosh, it was so long. And from Atlanta. And
your nerves got to be off the charts.
Oh, yeah. And we don't know what to expect, right? Because this day and age, COVID stuff, like you don't know what to expect. We were told, first little hiccup, we were told that when we got there that we were either vaccinated or had a negative PCR test within, I think it was like 48 hours or something like that. So when we got there, all of a sudden they stated it didn't matter if you were vaccinated. First of all, we arrived, we're at the airport. We had an amazing gentleman that actually met us, unlike Wisconsin, unlike the US, met us outside our gate. So like typically people aren't allowed past that. They have to wait at security. So we're like, oh wow, this is really nice service. We were kind of really happy about it. Yeah. So he comes and walks us through, and we get halted by checking our health stuff. So they get everything, and all of us get flooded off this massive plane, and they're like, okay, well, if you're vaccinated, even if you're vaccinated, you have to be able to show proof of that or something they needed. Basically what happened was, and there's no Wi-Fi, there's no service. You just land in a foreign country. And it was literally just congestion of nobody had, and they just changed all these rules. They're like, okay, well, we just changed that. Well, I think that was something that probably should have been stated before we all got on this plane and flew 17 or 16 hours, across the big old pond here. So we're all just stuck, and we were just halted. We eventually get it all figured out. We moved past. We did take our guns. So I actually took one of my grandpa's rifles. So over there, you can't take any semi-auto guns. They have to be bolt action. So my grandpa's original gun that I wanted to take, his 30-06, I couldn't take. So my dad said, you know what? I actually have the 7mm. It was grandpa's. He used it over here many times. Let's take that. Took that, threw on my brand new Vortex scope. It was so fun trying to get that sighted in. And
fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got through, and then we get through the checkpoint of going to the police station in the airport where you get your guns checked, get your permits. You have to have a permit. Holy cow. That is like a massive, there's lots of forms.
And they have to be used to this stuff.
Yes.
That this happens enough that like they shouldn't treat you so ridiculous, you know.
Let me tell you.
Like I've never done this before. Like this is my first time in Africa. So you've probably checked people in with weapons before. It's
Right.
not like ridiculous.
Well, and either when you're going to South Africa, I can tell you based on the population of everybody in that plane, you're either there for like business, a safari trip, or
Right.
you're hunting.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what
That's
it
it.
is. So it's a very small room, probably the size of this room, not joking you, where the police are behind this,
And this is a
the
huge
booth.
room. Just kidding.
And we have, there's so many people flooded off these planes and just guns stacked up everywhere. So we're all crowded in this room trying to get our permits. Afghan Safari Lodge is actually a great business. So like if you're ever going to travel there, they're a great stopping point. They have resources, and they had somebody specifically take all of our paperwork, go to the front. So we weren't all flooding at the front. They actually just took it all, started handling that, but that process itself took a very, very, very long time. If it wasn't for that, they have options that you can do ahead of time. But like even getting my gun, okay, like I had to go downtown Milwaukee by the airport, and I had to have them check my gun so that I could, get it clear to like fly internationally with it. And so once we got through that entire mess,
It's like SpongeBob. 4 hours later.
So literally, it was very, and you're traveling all day, like you're exhausted. So we went to Afghan Safari Lodge, and we were there. We all got to sleep for that night. We had an amazing steak dinner. I mean, it was the perfect place for like hunters to come and relax. They had a cool trophy room. They had a shoulder-mounted giraffe. Very interesting.
Wow, it's a big room then.
Yep.
This is a different room.
Believe it or not, but
So
they put it by the
floor.
It's on the floor, yeah.
Up in the rafters.
very interesting.
Yeah.
It was very interesting, but it was a really interesting experience. They were so awesome, so welcoming, and then from there we got picked up. But the roads there are not, actually kind of sometimes like Wisconsin, very, very dangerous, lots of potholes. So the normal 2-3 hour drive, we had to go all the way around. It turned into like a 7-8 hour drive to where we had to go. So another day of travel. So when we got there, it reminded me a lot of like, it wasn't what I thought. Johannesburg is very civilized. There's, people think you're going to end up in a desert, but it's very civilized. There's, lots of towns, but the crime is very bad. So be very, very safe if you are going to travel there.
Like lots of theft and things like that, probably.
A lot of things.
I witnessed kids stealing wallets from the beach, and I was like, "Oh, we can't leave our stuff." So we all couldn't go in at the same time. Someone had to stay back and like watch stuff.
That's unfortunate,
things like that, and like just cops were in on it. They would hold people up, and so like you can't go into town at night by yourself. You can probably get robbed. People know who you are. All that stuff. It's just So that's interesting. That's something that you just aren't. Right. That's not even something you're like even have to consider here.
Right. Right.
Certainly not here.
But they even said, they're like, don't just get into a taxi. I'm like, oh, they're like, no, they'll pretend to be a taxi and then take you.
Right. You got to kind of pre-plan some things.
Yes.
Yep.
And so through Afghan Safari Lodge, they literally have all of that done for you. So you just have a point of contact. You have someone safe.
This is a guy. That's a picture. Yeah.
And so what's funny.
Another Johan. Great.
What's great is my dad's been there so many times. My mom and I was our first time. We had some family friends too.
So we had some context.
My dad was able. I would have never.
Johan, I haven't seen you in a long time.
Without my dad, or without my dad. Yeah, well, without my dad. But he knew all these people, and it was very nice to see. I'm sure for him especially, familiar faces. But when we got to the lodge, it was amazing accommodations. I mean, the thing that blew me away, and I remember he said they do daily laundry. I'm like, yeah, okay. So. No, like quite literally, you put your clothes in this hamper every day, and the maids come the minute we left for our morning hunt. First of all, 5-star meals, 4 meals a day. Like it was.
And what are you eating there? Like, what are the meals in Africa that you're getting from the resort?
A lot of it was the game meat, which was awesome. They made amazing dishes from the game meat. So we do eat the meat that we harvest. However, 95% of it gets donated. So, I mean, every night we had whatever somebody was able to harvest. We had an amazing backstrap where we got to test all the different meats. And it was just amazing.
Just get meat sweats.
Keep it
coming, Johan.
So good. It is so good. And so it's just... but yeah, I mean, the food was the chef there. Whatever you wanted, he would make if there was something that you couldn't eat, but it was constantly just, I mean, I think I just have videos and pictures of just all of our meats. And then the end of every meal, cause it's not like they can't stuff you enough. They have this gourmet dessert that they come out and I'm like, we can't, I thought I was going to lose weight coming out here, like hiking and walking miles and miles.
You want dessert? Well, I mean, I didn't, but now I kind of do. Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
Sounds like my Disney cruise.
Yeah.
I actually came back learning 12 new desserts.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, hey, guess what I'm making tonight? It was great.
Nice.
And like, we had Wi-Fi there, so I was able to send back like Snapchat pictures, like, what's for dessert tonight? I'm like, that's like the thing that everyone was like, no, what's for dessert tonight? Like, I have to see this. But yeah, laundry every day, you put it in a hamper. I probably came with way too many clothes. I could have just gone away with 2 outfits because by the time I came back for dinner, my clothes were folded and cleaned and washed and on my bed every single day.
That's better than Disney.
So I'm like,
and they probably put a mint with it too.
Their chocolates, mints, and when I say clean,
Greg's
they
from Africa.
clean. Like everything was so clean, and it was very. I was surprised by the combination.
This is like a bad reference, but like Hotel Rwanda, which is like a thing in a movie. But like,
here we go.
But just thinking about like before all that went down, how beautiful that was.
Right.
So yeah, sorry.
Wasn't that from that like Blood Diamond movie?
No, well, that's a different movie.
Oh.
But also, I think in that movie they're like, this is Africa. They're just like writing it off like
that one
everything's
guy, Johan was in it.
Yeah.
That's not going to get old. I'm not. It's okay.
That's amazing.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it was. I remember even like when because of the laundry or whatever, I was like, this smells like Africa still. Like it's just.
So
like
that's how I felt in Nicaragua. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger when I said that. I can't do accents. You did a job in Nicaragua. But it was, I was like, wow. So we'd say like La Pyramide or something, and everything was just so top notch.
Yeah.
They treated us like above and beyond. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what is happening? It's just, the way you get treated elsewhere is different than here.
It is.
The best here is like not even comparable to how much effort that goes into and how much that shines through.
And the people behind the scenes that are doing stuff that we don't even get to meet,
Right.
So it's a totally different world over there, but I fell in love with it.
So then you go hunting, like you wake up, you're on a resort, and then how do you get to where you're going? Like what?
So in Africa, it's very different. So everything is fenced. And when I say fenced, it's like, it could be 30 miles by 50 miles. Like, but you have to be able to somehow control the population and what's going on, but you also have to deal with a lot of poachers. So where we were at, for example.
So the fence is designed to keep the animals in, but also the poachers out.
Yes.
And that doesn't probably do a lot of great.
Right. And essentially, truly, most animals are going to move back and forth because warthogs dig. They dig holes. You can have animals easily sky these, fences. And so it's essentially more of just like a control of knowing what you do and don't have for population. So every single thing over there, 95% of it is fenced. Mm-hmm. That's just how it is. But like I said, it is no easy fret. When I went over there, my number one was a kudu. I saw kudu maybe twice the entire time. And we covered some every day. I mean, blisters on our feet, walking for every day, morning to night.
Those are cool animals.
It was just unreal.
So and we did 2 weeks. Sorry,
it's about like from start to finish with the 2 travel days in the beginning, 2 travel days in the end. It was about a 2-week trip that we did. Sorry. So no, you're okay. But it was.
We're using the word sorry and Johan. Let's say show.
Sorry, Johan.
If we're like playing bingo, you'd have like the corners covered here. They'd all be Johan. The middle star would be sorry.
I'm just trying to be nice. Talking about nice people, it feels good to be nice. So it's like good to be nice.
But yeah, it was a very, and the terrain over there is not what you would normally see. Like you would think, again, like South Africa, like without knowing the terrain, it's a lot of desert, and there is, but there's a lot of hills, I wouldn't say mountains, but lots of big hills, rocks everywhere.
I'm just thinking lions.
So we didn't have lions there. The neighbors did, which is crazy because they were miles away. But in the morning, very sad situation. But in the morning, you can hear
God, did someone get eaten?
No. Okay. He just decided to have a couple lions, but in a very small area, which is not ideal.
Interesting.
And so it was a neighbor. And so it was a very unfortunate situation. But you could hear them roaring. I'm like, is that what I think it is? And they're like, yep, those are the lions. That's lions. And it's like in the, as the sun's coming up and all you hear is just this roaring. I'm like, so surreal, but also kind of crazy, right? Like, holy cow. And then to know that they were like how many miles away and you can still hear that, that's insane to me. It's insane.
Goosebumps.
Every now and again you might get like the occasional wolf or coyote howl if you're in the Northwoods, or not, coyotes down here.
Oh my
gosh. But like that's chilling in and of itself. But a lion or a big whale,
well, because
don't they live in packs?
Right. I just remember looking and I looked at my cameraman. I'm like, is that? He's like, yep. And he's like, oh yeah, those are lions. I'm like, oh.
And you see that rock over there?
Pride Rock.
Can we go hunt over there?
Yeah. Where are the hyenas at? Those things are freaking nuts too. Those matriarch hyenas, those things are freaking, they'll tear you up.
So one of our fun things that we learned that South Africans do is we decided one night, because we started hearing like jackals essentially that were howling, so like similar to like a coyote, and they're like, we're gonna go hunting. I'm like, exhausted, right? Like, you've been walking, you've been hunting all day, and we're like, screw it, let's do it. So we go in.
Yeah, you have to get all of the experiences.
Exactly. Go in the truck, and they're like, all right, we're gonna do this. We put a collar out. We could hear them. It was so wild. We unfortunately did not harvest a jackal, but just the experience of going out and just trying to do that. We had somebody, we had one person on the ground. We had spotlights, everything ready to go. It was great. And then we also went around, and then they have this thing called a spring hare. So one of our guides, his name is Tiny. So I could not say his name right. I still can't to this day, but he's like 6'7", okay? And his, what is it? Sinus?
Tennis.
See, I still can't say it. Tennis is his name.
I know why, because if you replace one letter, we're talking about something else.
Yep. Well, not just.
I'd be nervous.
I actually thought it was Tinus or whatever it was, and I actually one morning I said dingus, and so no one else heard it but Jace, and so he's like just crying. Everyone's like, "What just happened?" No one else is understanding.
Hey,
what
dingus!
And I was like,
wow,
hey, dingus.
She's not really respectful from the U.S. Like,
I felt so bad, and he's
this
like,
is why they hate Americans.
I'm like, oh my gosh. No. So I finally was like, okay, I can't say your name anymore, and they just kept trying to tell me. I'm like, that's it, Tiny, it is. It's stuck. So Tiny starts, and he's like 6'7", right, and just hilarious, and he full blown stops the truck, in the middle of like all of a sudden he sees something. We're like, what are you doing? Jumps out. I barely puts it in park and just starts taking off. And we're like, where is he going?
Is he feeding us lions?
And they have these things called spring hares. And it's essentially, it looks like a mouse, but also a rabbit, but also a kangaroo. Like, it's the funniest
So it looks
thing.
like, what are those things called? Chinchillas? It's like
almost
a big chinchilla?
like, it's so funky looking. So again, I had no idea until I Googled it.
The jackalope.
Did we talk about kangaroos on last week's episode?
Oh, so weird. So
that was on the podcast I did at the
event.
At the event.
That's
we were asking the DNR warden if it's legal to shoot a kangaroo if they're just happening to be hopping around.
That's what they look like.
Oh wow, yeah, it does look a lot like
so,
okay, a
so
rabbit kangaroo.
Strange. It's so strange, but it's got like a mouse-like face.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently over there you chase them and you like pull them out of the hole, and then people you chase them, and like it's a thing that they do for like fun.
Are they messing with you?
No,
you go chase it.
Too.
Pull it out
I didn't get out. So what's crazy is he just takes off booking, trying to chase after this thing, and all you see is like his flashlight flying in the distance, and he is looking for this spring hare that he just saw, and it went down into a hole. But sometimes they go in and try to find. Oh my gosh, I cannot. Right?
I heard the lion roar. That was the end of it, guys. What happened?
Too close to Pride Rock.
But the other thing they do is they go up to, almost like cows here in Wisconsin, right, or the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
They go up to sleeping ostriches, and they go up to them, and you can jump on their back, and because you can do ostrich races out there. You jump on their back and take off with them.
Those things scare the crap out of
me. Too.
There's not a snowball's chance in hell that I'm climbing an ostrich's back.
He was almost.
They're basically dinosaurs. They're like a velociraptor.
He
none at that time.
No liquid courage at all.
It was insane. And so did you know that ostriches, their heads don't move when they run?
What? I believe that. That's like, you put a GoPro on a chicken and it's basically like your gimbal,
Really?
So.
It's crazy. I was like, he was telling us, Tiny was telling me, he's like, their heads don't move when they run. And we're watching like a whole bunch of them just taking off. And I'm like, yep, they're not moving. It's just fascinating. Yeah. But they're huge. They're absolutely huge.
They're scary big. At the zoo, you can get pretty close to them now, the way they designed the fence. And I'm like,
oh, really?
They're taller than you, and they could peck the crap out of you.
Can you imagine the size of that drumstick?
That and those damn kangaroos, they look like they're ripped. Like, what is with the kangaroos looking like they're on roids?
I don't even know.
They are.
Like the one kangaroo had that guy's dog in its arm.
Oh, and it beat it up.
Hang on to it.
Just punching the dog. Like, what the heck is that all about? If I saw a kangaroo pick up my
canines.
dog, I'd be like, this is not okay.
We talked to somebody about this.
Well, I did last weekend. We got all about kangaroos.
This is a conversation I'm not privy to, so I don't know.
And now you are.
Wow.
Listen.
Listen.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Kangaroos are on steroids. No, we're just making stuff up now. But just no, it's really cool to hear some of that stuff. And like as being someone who hunts here for whitetail,
right?
That's primarily our demographic.
Uh-huh.
And we talk to people that hunt elk and mule deer and things like that. But I don't think we've talked about Africa. Is it the South African part? Is it or South Africa?
So South Africa, it's the most southern part of the entire country.
Okay, and football's big over there, right?
Soccer, football. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very, very big.
Quotations.
Football and rugby. Rugby is a big one.
Okay. And there's also it's called Australian football's another thing too.
Oh, really?
It's like football and rugby kind of mixed together, and it's actually like really hardcore.
Interesting.
Like you could lose teeth playing that game pretty quick, I think.
Rugby's pretty violent.
Mm-hmm.
It is very
I've met a few rugby players. They're missing teeth and they're pretty big.
Just thinking, like, you just learned a whole bunch of cool, like, African hunting traditions and stuff. Like, invite them over here and be like, all right, it's opening day. Like, it's 10:30. Right. Usually take a nap about You'll wake up, it's a squirrel, I
swear. You wake up from the nap and you go to the bar and have a Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
And you chase it down with a beer of your choice.
And you instead of picking a thing out of a hole, you put the 8-ball in the hole and we play pool, or whatever.
I love it. I love it.
No, so then like when you harvested an animal, you said like 5% of it is something that you get to keep. Are you eating that or?
So we can't like keep it per se, but we were able to have a little bit of some of the meat, and then like I said, most of it he would personally deliver and give to this charity in town, this church in town, that would then, whether we would prep it and prepare it, they would process it at all. I mean, it was, so when you ask about what happens when you field dress it, they have such a system there. They do everything because you have to be incredibly careful with, for example, waterbuck, their hide is the oils on their hide, if you touch their hide and their skin and their coat and then touch the meat, it's no good. So you have to be incredibly careful with some of the things that you're touching or what you're touching.
What a shame that is. I'd be like, oh, this is ruined.
So
I
so
really
it's
freaking field dress a whitetail.
Right?
Are you kidding me?
You want to watch something interesting? Watch that once.
What? Watch him skin a field dress.
Watch him field dress.
You can witness it. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Do you use the butt out? I started
do.
using that. It's the greatest.
You know what? Actually, I stopped.
It really is amazing.
I can't get it to work right.
You missed a little something on this one. Let me tell you.
Did I?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I think you're probably right. Well, you talked to my dad about it. Anyway, we're like the same.
It's okay. But yeah, they have an operation there where they have all of their workers. They have this incredibly elaborate machine that literally wrenches them into the truck and then out, and then they just watching them work and how fast they can skin, quarter, process.
It's like going like a butcher
here.
It
is, and they have so many people on it at the same time. Their bone saw is like, it almost looks like a giant. It was actually terrifying at first. I walked in, I'm like, this looks like I'm in the Texas Massacre movie, because it was absolutely terrifying.
Well,
I looked at him and I was like, what is this for? He's like, oh, that's our bone saw. It doesn't sound as scary as it looked, but he's like, how, you think about the animals, like a Cape buffalo, like how on earth would you harvest an animal like that?
Well, if you're hunting in that kind of heat too, you gotta
move quick.
Very, very quick. And so they have the salt room where they salted all the hides and all of the different animals. You could see afterwards, like compare sizes. I mean, I think did I show you my warthog picture?
I had a few beers.
Warthog was not on my list at all, and it ended up on my list.
Was it like very large?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never seen one of, and put in perspective, going up to our cabin, my grandpa has a lot of his animals up there, mounted, and seeing his warthog compared to mine was like, I mean, we didn't measure it yet, but it was huge. And so needless to say, Francois over there was like, if you're not shooting it, I'm going to shoot it. Like this thing is like a once in a lifetime.
Oh, wow.
Warthog. So now I'm getting a full mounted warthog and I have no clue where to put.
You have a room in your house like this, right? Yeah.
I'm like, where would I put this thing? Like, I remember doing my interview and I got up and I was like, what is this on him? And Tiny goes, oh, that's lice. I just don't want to tell you because I knew you wouldn't sit this close to him otherwise. I'm like, okay. Like, oh, okay.
What a beautiful
what a beautiful
thorough shower tonight. Yeah.
like I said, kudu was my number one. Hardly even see one. I couldn't shoot one. The ones that I saw were not.
So what did y'all get over there?
Oh gosh, red hartebeest, hemsbuck or oryx. I got
oryx. I've heard of oryx. My buddy Shane.
Yep, this the one.
His dad's house is like a whole.
Yep.
No, that's a sable.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's a sable. Those were beautiful. I shot one of those as well. And then the oryx are the ones that are straight back, like the two that are straight. And then blue wildebeest and a zebra and a warthog and a waterbuck.
Very cool.
So 7 animals.
Wow.
So waterbuck was not on my list, and it was one of those animals that I'm like, I saw all the time, all week. I'm like, yeah, if I can't get a kudu, I'll definitely add one of those. And they're definitely beautiful. Never knew much about them. And then, of course, the 2 days we go and start targeting waterbuck, you can't see them anywhere. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like the first day, like I shot a red hartebeest, I saw them every single day, everywhere. I'm like, why? Why? That's just the way it is, right? Like you're going after one species or one targeted animal, and they just disappear when you go out for opening day. And then all of a sudden you shoot one. We were just watching an elk hunting video, and he was targeting one elk, and then he shot one, and then of course his target elk, not even 5 minutes later, just comes strolling by. Like, of course, that's just how it happens.
And are you paying? Are you paying per ant? Like, how does that work? Your trip is it like all inclusive? You could just get to shoot these animals since they're donating the meat. Like, what? I don't know how that.
So
I'd be like, yeah, maybe I won't shoot that one. I got to pay more. No, yeah, like I would be concerned about that.
So donating meat in itself is like usually depending on where you go. I can't speak for other companies and outfitters, lodges, because everyone is different. But this specific one, in my experience, because I am no expert in this, but I can tell you that there's no difference in pricing donated meat. That we just know that you can't take that with you unless you're local, obviously, right? And so all that meat, regardless, is getting donated, which is amazing. And so it's definitely, I think they said if it wasn't for that meat, I think he supplies 95% of the food for the entire community there because of the amount of food that they are able to give. So it is amazing when you put.
So there's someone always there doing this.
Always. And so again, I can't speak for all, but what we did and what he offered to us was like package deals. So everything is all inclusive when it comes to like your meals, your lodging, everything that's included drink wise. It's not like here where you're like going on a cruise and you have to choose like a drink package or something. Again, I don't know what other ones are. Yep. But this one, it was nice because you could say, these are the animals I want. This is on my list. And then from there, you can form a package and you can customize the package. You can add something. You can trade it out. Sometimes I've like pick one from group A, pick 2 from group B. And again, what's nice is like you go over there with a plan, but like so much changed when I went over there. It's just how it is. You don't know. And I didn't know. I would go over there. I'm like, oh, that's what this is. I can tell you to this day. I have conversations with him and he's like, which one is that? But now Jason and I've been over there, my camera guy, and we're like, oh yeah, that's this, and this. And like, people are like, what? Like I was you 2 months ago. Like I had no clue what something was.
Well, you spend a time around it. Yeah. So then on the show, like these are all filmed events that you can go watch. People like that are listening. If you want to go see this stuff, we can.
The first 5 episodes for my entire season are South Africa because we had so much content and so much amazing content. So it's that will definitely be a huge part. And we were going to end it with that, but I'm like, what better way? Like my grandpa's the reason why I'm doing this. This is exactly why. So why not come out of the gates and share this tradition, this story, and this legacy, and be able to show people like this is how it got started, and then go from there. So this season is kind of like a hodgepodge of like what I've done over the last 2 years with. I've been trying to get on TV, and unfortunately with not only working as a nurse, but the pandemic affected everybody so much, right? And so travel, trips getting canceled, things just became very difficult. A lot of things happened personally. And so making it now and to like just see like even looking at the back of the footage, like this is 2 years worth of footage that we're putting out for season 1. And just to see the progression of not only myself, but the hunts and the people I've met is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, yeah.
That is something. How do people follow you? Where can they find you? Where should we direct them to go? And by we, I mean you, because I don't. You heard me do the sponsorship reads. Sorry, sponsors and partners.
So
you know what you're doing. You know who you got into, in the podcast studio with. Okay.
So we have a website, www.thewildracetv.com, and then I'm also on TikTok under Jessica Ann Outdoors. I have Instagram, which is mainly was my number one for the longest time. So at Jessica Ann Outdoors, and then our show is at Inside the Wild Race. So that has a lot of, we're growing that platform. So like most people, I am wearing multiple hats. So I'm running not only technically we've had this conversation like 5 or 6 different platforms plus the website plus coordinating all these, and I tell people like I can delegate somebody make a phone call, but who's going to make that connection with that person at the end of the day, right? Like I want to be able to know who I'm working with and developing these relationships with. So but yeah, it's great. So definitely. And then we just started YouTube, which is also Inside the Wild Race. So we're starting to get to that point. We're growing that.
Yeah, are you allowed to put out to YouTube based on the contracts? But I imagine, so if you ever want any help with micro content, I could probably steer you in some fun directions there. But I imagine there's probably some clips you could put out to YouTube.
So we have to you can't make it like the exact episode. You have to make a few changes to it, whether it's a song, couple clips, and then you can publish it. So but moving forward and for season 2 and subsequent seasons, we do want to be able to somehow create a way that our viewers can also to have that broader audience to be able to access that right away on YouTube.
Twice the work.
Just no big deal. No big deal.
It's a ton of
Chase, you got it, right?
It's a ton of work. It sounds like you guys have all kinds of time.
But as you get more people like to buy in just through like the mission that you're doing and the work that you're putting out there, I think some more people magnet to this stuff and some more people come in and you can start to scale your efforts and bring people in to do things that you're doing.
And that's the thing. Absolutely.
Like, and this is, it sounds like most businesses are like that. The E-Myth is a book that talks about like, you're the entrepreneur. You have to wear these hats first, create the blueprint and like document how to do stuff. Then other people can come under you and they know how to do it. And then you can say like, look, I did that.
Absolutely.
So you're really leading them from the front, which is important as a leader,
Absolutely.
I believe. Well, cool. Thanks for hanging out with us in the Okayest Hunter podcast studio.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully it lived up to your expectation of what you've seen on the internet.
You didn't set the bar too high.
Yeah, try not to, really, for that reason. But no, now that folks know where to find you, that's great. If you guys, want to go follow them, please do so. Obviously, we'll tag you in everything, and this will be live in podcast land tonight. That's how we roll. We'll tag you in all our stuff, and hopefully you get a few more folks tuning in.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
Thank
fun
you.
stuff.
We appreciate it. Thanks for delivering all the good news to the kids today.
Of course.
How exciting for them. Well, I'm going to end the live broadcast, so I'll turn all these things off, and then we'll hang out for a little